1 month after losing my job, I put a garage sale sign out to sell some things. My neighbor walked over, kicked through a table of items, and shouted, "Maybe if you weren't so lazy, you wouldn't be begging for money." I tried to ignore him, but he called the city, claiming I was running an illegal business. When the officers came, I had to shut everything down in front of a small crowd. I watched as my daughter cried, holding the dollhouse we had planned to sell to afford her birthday gift. I used to think the worst day of my life was the one I lost my job. I was wrong. That day came exactly 34 days later, when I watched my neighbor kick over my garage sale table, call me lazy, and make my little girl cry. We live in a small suburb outside Kansas City. Not rich, not poor. Just normal. I've lived on this street for 11 years. My wife passed away 3 years ago, so it's just me and my daughter Abby now. She's 8. I was working HVAC since I was 21. I stayed loyal to the same company, never called in sick, worked weekends when they needed. Then one Thursday morning, we got called into the shop. Boss says they're downsizing. I was gone in under 10 minutes. No warning. No severance. Nothing. At first, I told myself I'd bounce back. A week later, I started calling around. Everyone said the same thing. Not hiring. Or, try again next month. After 3 weeks, I started pawning tools. Then the electric bill came in red, and I knew I had to do something fast. I decided on a garage sale. Nothing fancy. Just a folding table, a few boxes, and a handwritten sign on a stake at the corner. Abby helped me set it all up. We were even a little excited. She brought out this old wooden dollhouse, her favorite. I asked her twice if she was sure. She said she wanted to help get money for a birthday bike. The first people who showed up were kind. One older woman bought a coffee maker and gave me $10 extra. For the little helper. Abby smiled all wide. That smile lasted exactly 4 more minutes. Because that's when Greg showed up. Greg moved in 2 years ago. From the moment he got here, it's been non-stop complaints. Noise, lawn height, leaves, parking, anything. He once called the city because our trash cans were out too early. I tried to stay polite. Keep the peace for Abby's sake. He comes walking down the driveway, beer can in hand. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. He sees the sale, walks right up like he owns the block. Then, without a word, he kicks the leg of the table. Everything crashes down. A glass lamp I had out for $5 shatters on the concrete. Abby screams and tries to save the dollhouse. Greg looks me dead in the eye and says, "Maybe if you weren't so lazy, you wouldn't be out here begging for money like some drunk." I stood there frozen. I wanted to punch him. I really did. But Abby was watching. My hands were shaking. I knelt down, helped her pick things up. I didn't say a word to Greg. He stood there a moment, smirked, then walked back across the street like he'd done nothing wrong. 10 minutes later, 2 city code enforcement officers show up. One of them looked almost sorry when he said, "We got a call about an unlicensed business being run here." I explained it was a one-day garage sale. He said it didn't matter. Someone filed a formal complaint. I'd either have to shut it down or apply for a permit and wait for approval. By then, a small group of neighbors had come out to see what the commotion was. I saw Greg standing by his truck smirking, arms crossed. I packed everything up while Abby cried quietly. She held the broken dollhouse on her lap. I couldn't even look at her. I felt like a failure. But something changed in me that day. I stopped feeling scared. I stopped worrying about being the nice neighbor. I started planning. Greg thought he could break me. He thought being loud and cruel made him untouchable. He was wrong. After I put Abby to bed that night, I sat in the garage staring at the broken dollhouse. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Greg's voice in my head, lazy, begging for money. I'd heard insults before, but never like that, not in front of my daughter. Something about that day didn't just hurt, it lit a fuse in me. The next morning, I started watching Greg. Not just casually, I watched him. When he left, where he went, how long he was gone. I wrote it all down in a notebook. His patterns were as regular as clockwork. Weekdays he left around 6:50 a.m., came back at 5:10 p.m. Weekend mornings he stayed home, usually drank on the porch, sometimes worked in the garage with the door open. He had one of those big contractor trucks, oversized Ford with company logos on the side. I did a little digging. Turns out Greg ran a small construction business. Plumbing and renovation mostly. His website had some flashy photos and licensed and insured stamped all over it. I called the county office. Turns out his business license expired 5 months ago. He hadn't renewed it. He was also using residential space as an office, which, according to the guy I spoke to, was not allowed under our zoning code. So I filed the report. Anonymously. But that was just the beginning. Next, I found his Yelp page. It only had 6 reviews, all glowing. But I knew that couldn't be the full picture. I posted my own review. I told the truth. Said he was aggressive, shouted at neighbors, and recently harassed a single father and his child. I didn't use my name, but I made sure it sounded personal and real. Then I went a step further. A buddy of mine from high school, Jason, works in inspections. We hadn't talked in years, but I still had his number. I invited him over for a beer. Told him what happened. He was pissed for me. Said he'd make a few visits. Nothing illegal, just a proper check on Greg's permits, his property, and his vehicle, which was registered commercially but parked illegally overnight in a residential zone. Within 2 weeks, things started to crack. One morning, Greg came storming down the driveway, yelling at a guy in a reflective vest who was measuring something on the curb. A city inspector. Another day, a police cruiser sat across the street for almost an hour, just watching. Greg paced his porch, red-faced and shouting on his phone. I watched from inside with a cup of coffee. Abby was playing with a puzzle on the floor. He had no idea it was me. Not yet. But that wasn't enough. Greg needed to feel what I felt, helpless, exposed, alone. So I hit him where it hurt most, his reputation. Greg's business relied heavily on word of mouth. Local jobs. Kitchen remodels. Plumbing upgrades. A lot of his customers were retirees or single moms around the neighborhood. People who didn't ask too many questions if someone seemed professional. So I made sure people started asking questions. I made a new email under a fake name and joined 3 local Facebook groups, community boards where people posted about yard sales, lost pets, and recommended services. I waited until someone asked for a plumber or handyman, then posted. Avoid Greg T********* construction. Had a really disturbing experience. Very aggressive behavior at my home. Made me feel unsafe. That post got over 40 replies in the first day. A few people defended him, probably friends or family. But others started chiming in, saying they'd had weird vibes, slow work, or that he acted pushy when questioned about costs. One woman said he left her basement flooded and ghosted her after cash payment. Then I found his Google business listing and flagged it for review with screenshots of expired licensing and zoning violations. A week later, his listing was under moderation. Another week, it was gone. By then, Greg was spiraling. He started parking his truck down the block to avoid more complaints. He kept his garage doors shut. No more porch beers. No more smirking. One day, Abby and I were walking our dog past his house. He opened the door, stood halfway outside, and just stared at us. I looked him in the eye. He didn't say a word. He looked tired. Not angry. Just beat down. That should have been enough. I should have let it go. But I couldn't. Because of what happened next. A woman knocked on my door early one morning. Mid-40s, nice but tired. Said her name was Donna. She asked if I knew Greg. I said yeah, unfortunately. She hesitated, then said, "He did work on my house last month. Overcharged me. Left holes in the drywall. Now he won't return my calls." I asked if she had a contract. She didn't, just texts. She showed me. The messages were short, rude, and the last one was a threat. "Good luck getting your money back, lady. Go cry to someone else." I told her everything. About the expired license. The fake business front. The city fines. She was quiet for a second, then said, "He did this to my cousin too. And my neighbor. So we made a plan. We weren't just going to expose Greg. We were going to ruin him, together." Donna and I talked for over 2 hours that day. She wasn't just angry, she was humiliated. She'd paid Greg in cash up front, because he said he needed to secure materials. Then he half finished the job and vanished. By the time she called the number again, it was disconnected. That's when I knew this wasn't just a personal grudge anymore. Greg wasn't just a loudmouth jerk, he was a predator, taking advantage of people when they were vulnerable. Same way he kicked my table while I was already down. Same way he broke my daughter's heart like it meant nothing. I pulled together everything I had: photos, complaint records, witness statements from 2 other neighbors who had bad experiences, and printed out posts from Facebook. Donna reached out to the other woman who mentioned the flooded basement. Then another neighbor came forward. A guy Greg did deck work for. Said Greg used subpar lumber and never sealed it, then vanished after getting paid. 4 of us met in my garage one night. It wasn't fancy. Just a folding table, a pad of notes, and coffee. But it felt like something important. Like justice getting ready to breathe. We filed a joint complaint with the state licensing board. Then we contacted a local journalist, this woman named Rachel, who did a weekly segment on contractor scams. She came out, interviewed us, took pictures, and even got a quick shot of Greg's truck parked in front of his house. I didn't say much on camera. Just enough. Donna did most of the talking. The story aired on a Tuesday night. By Thursday morning, Greg's phone was disconnected again. By the weekend, his company website was down. And the cherry on top? I found his house listed on Zillow. He was trying to sell. One morning about 3 weeks later, I stepped outside to get the mail. Abby was inside, eating cereal and watching cartoons. Across the street, I saw Greg hauling boxes into a moving van. No for sale sign anymore. Just him, sweating, red in the face, avoiding eye contact. He didn't say goodbye. Didn't scream. Didn't threaten. He just left. Later that week, Donna called me laughing. Turns out Greg was fined by the city for working without a license and had to refund one of the women he scammed after small claims court ruled in her favor. But here's the part that sticks with me. I fixed up the old dollhouse. Used leftover parts from an AC unit I never sold. Repainted the roof, glued the windows. On Abby's birthday, I gave it back to her, restored. She looked at it for a long second and said, "It looks brand new." I told her, "Some things break. But we fix what matters." She smiled. I haven't seen her cry since. Greg broke something in me that day, made me feel like I was less than a man in front of my daughter. But in the end, I didn't get loud, I didn't get violent. I just made sure that when the dust settled, he was the one left standing alone. And I was still here. Stronger. Smarter. Unbroken.